Mary, how are you?
I'm good, Francis. How about you?
Good. I'm looking at all those books behind you,
Yes,
and so they're quilt books, aren't they?
they are.
You write about quilts. You write about quilts very seriously, but in different kinds of ways. And
Yeah.
of course, in June, we're going to be teaching writing around quilts. Did you imagine this was going to be your life? You were going to be a quilt writer?
You know, I didn't. I've always been a writer. That was always true. I was writing little stories, and then in high school, I was like the girl writing poems. And I put them in my pocket, and it was like there's a poem in my pocket, and I felt, so like, cool and like whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's always been true. And I keep a diary. I write like 1,000 pages a year, probably in my diary. I sort of counted a few years ago. I was like, yeah, it's about right. So I've always been a writer, but I didn't ever think it would be about quilting as much as it is now. And I feel grateful for that because I want to write about everything. And quilts actually give me a way to sort of write about everything because it's
Yeah.
art, it's history, and all that. So I feel lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I absolutely agree. As you know, I write different things about quilts, but including quilt fiction. And of course, writing about quilts allows me to write about women's lives, about domestic history, which I'm very interested in. And I have a series of books that are set in the 1930s. I mean, quilts are such great metaphors, but they also, it's like they are art history. It's people's history, it's women's history, and it's a way into people's lives that I find fascinating.
There's men's history too in quilt making, and in like the first, I was reading about the first sort of quilts in Britain. Like men were making those and selling them and things like that. And some good friends. Luke Haynes is a friend of mine. I think,
Yeah.
and you definitely know Luke. You might be friends with him as well. But he's so wonderful. And it's like so even that intersection. I mean, wherever you turn when you look at quilts, there's something to dive into, and whether
Right,
it's a personal
right.
story or somebody else's. Yeah.
Right, right. No, and that's, I was thinking about that recently, the men thing with QuiltCon. And
Yeah.
to go into QuiltCon and see how many men are quilting. And again, and it says something about the culture. So quilts say something about the culture whenever they appear. So and so for writers, and I know we both have written about all kinds of things,
Yeah.
but quilts are really rich.
Yeah.
And my question is, so and you we both have come to quilting in interesting and perhaps especially in your case unique ways, given that you grew up around quilts and were moved away from quilts, moved toward quilts. And for me, it's just I always wanted to make a quilt, but didn't know how and didn't feel like I could. I did not feel that was available to me. So anyway, came to quilts later. But I think of myself, I think about when I started quilting, I was very much a writer and thinking about this retreat and like
Mhm.
what would have been exciting to me when I saw the ad, when the Quiltfolk email, because it came into my box and said, here's this writing retreat. Have you thought about that? Like, what would you want from it? How excited would you have been? What would your reaction to that have been?
You know, I it's like peanut butter and chocolate, like there's a place people actually like, this is a thing. This is a thing that people figured out that it would be amazing, because I mean, both you and me, yeah, it's a great question. What would I have thought? I mean, I would have begged, borrowed, and stealed to go.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and even if I didn't, I mean, I could stay with my mom, but no, if it was in some other place, and I grew up in Winterset, and it's such a wonderful place to visit, getting better all the time. And there's a bookstore now, like basically across the street from our
A
workshops.
great bookstore.
I mean, yeah, it's really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And so I would have just, I mean, I would have been over the moon. And of course, I'm over the moon to be involved with it at all. But I just, I don't know. To me, it just, quilting and writing, of course, like just for a lot of people, they do go together. For you, for me, for
Yeah.
many people, writers for Quiltfolk. So
Yeah.
we're out there. And so I would have been so excited.
Oh, I would, yeah, and I was thinking we both have writing degrees.
Yeah.
We both have those really handy dandy MFAs, and
Yeah.
mine's the best because it's in poetry. So it's like
Yeah.
what you want to encourage the young people in your life to do. But the great thing about it, and I think it's really similar, for me going through the MFA was to be with people who loved what I loved. And you're right, there's this intersection with quilts. So it's not, it's like people who love quilts and then want to write about quilts, and that, and the same way going to do the poetry degree, to be around people who obsessed about poetry as much as I did,
Yeah.
and also want to write about it. And and to go, I'm excited, and I'm a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Teaching this, but I'm excited because I feel like I'm going to meet my people, and who just will be the students, but also in some ways, I think we're all just going to be having a party together. Like, oh, we're going to talk about writing. We're going to talk about quilts. How cool is that?
Yeah, I think what I'm looking forward to is that exactly. And I've never been on a writing retreat. I've never done it. I've always wanted to. I applied to Yaddo or so. Is it
Yeah.
Yaddo? Yadu or something like
Yada. Yeah.
years ago, didn't get in, and I'm not surprised. But that's this fancy schmancy sort of, it seems like a really neat writers retreat for really good writers, and it's hard to get into anyway. So I haven't done anything like that. But you mentioned school, and what I do know of is that feeling of being with like-minded people who care about words and
Yeah.
language, whether they have a ton of experience with it or not. Nobody's going to come to a writing retreat who doesn't like writing and reading
Right.
and words. So being in the environment in school was so wonderful. I mean, it was like a retreat, and it was this yeah, it was a feeling of being with people who cared about the same things you care about. And this is like
Yeah.
a double dip with the quilt
Yes.
thing, right?
Yes, exactly. And the fact I've been to Winterset once now. I went for the Iowa Quilt Festival last year. It is beautiful. As someone who spends the summers in the South, to go to a place that's relatively humidity free. Someone complained about humidity. I'm like, oh no. So it's a gorgeous place. We're going to the International Quilt Museum. So bucket list item for me, very seriously. And I, in some ways, I've never been to summer camp, but I feel like this is going to be my summer camp. Finally, I'm
Yeah.
turning 60 next month, and I'm finally making it to summer camp. And we're going to the International Quilt Museum, and we'll be, talking about quilts. It's going to be intense in a really great way. I think we all will be BFFs for
Yeah.
life.
There's already a couple of people, David, if you're watching, I'm so excited to meet. Like, the world is the way it is, where we have these friends we've never met because we meet online or we meet,
Yeah,
social media or whatnot. And that's kind of a reunion already baked in. So
yeah,
there's good food. Megan, who is helping to coordinate she's our boots on the ground in Winterset, is magic. And Lauren, who isn't here with us today, is also magic. And by that, I mean that she is just sort of extraordinarily capable and kind and
yeah,
smart, and she's a great writer too, and she's editor at Quiltfolk. So yeah, just really, really a great team.
yeah.
And yeah.
I think it's going to be fun and perhaps sometimes silly, but
Yeah.
also, yeah, but we're going to have a good time. And circle of trust, I believe that. And it's, yeah. So I'm excited to work with you, of course.
Oh, listen, let me tell you, everybody, Frances is a good time. You are funny. I love a funny woman. I love funny women so much. And you're very, very funny. And because we hung out for the first time at QuiltCon,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was awesome. It was
And
really
you are funny as well, but you're also, and this is one of my favorite things, you are nerdy, and we are going to geek out over quilts and over words. And again, this is why it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun for everyone because everyone there is going to care about quilts, is going to care about writing. And yeah, I think we're all just going to get a lot out of it. I think it's going to be great.
too. Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. And if you've got a friend who's on the fence, if anybody's out there watching who's got a friend on the fence, if they have a yen to do this, encourage them. And even
Yeah.
if they can't do it this time, because I think stepping out and trying something new in your passion for quilting is a
Yeah.
really cool thing to do. So that's
Yeah.
all. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see you in June. I can't wait to see everyone who's coming. And if you're thinking about it, do it. Do it. We're going to have so much fun. It's going to be fabulous.
You're really good. Thanks for
Right. See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye. And